And let me know if you should just be able to see the one screen that I have, but if the other one is not coming up, let me know and I will switch to that. I'm on Zoom, but sometimes it can get a little funky in trying to share the multiple screens at once. Are you able to see the camera version, like with the collage?
Um, yeah, I see the collage.
Okay. And then if I circle back to the class one, then you can see the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. It's doing what it needs to do. Sometimes it wants to act funny. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see the details better. But basically, with mark making, it's a really fun way to add a bit more texture and a bit more visual interest to your collage. The first kind of technique, stencil making is one that can be a lot of fun. And the way that I like to do stencils is using like really cheap materials, such as like a cereal box. You can use like a cereal box, or you can use something that you don't really have a lot of interest in losing. Like it's like, oh, it's just something I'm going to throw away anyway. Let's use it for a collage. With this sort of collage, the way that I've made these marks in particular, I've used. I don't think I have it with me. Let me demonstrate. Like a funky water damaged piece of paper can make a great stencil. Like it's just a funky piece of paper. So what I like to do with collage for these sort of stencils is I like to you can draw out a shape, and I like to use these thicker papers because they offer a bit more structure. So as you're um continually like using your paint or your markers or whatever kind of materials you're using, they're sturdier. Obviously, cardboard's more sturdy. Like a old soda box is sturdy as well. Any kind of sturdy material because you want it to last more than just one use. I mean, I do anyways, but you may have thinner papers, and that's fine too. But you want something that you can keep using again and again. So kind of like with that demo collage, I'll just explain what I did so you can understand it a little and you can practice it today too. So, like with this sort of smaller, these kind of shapes, I like to use like this little stencil and go around with a marker, and that helps me to add interest in a way that like I can repeat that over again and again and again. So something like this. You can take that kind of marker. You can do something like that, like loose, organic, free flowing, nothing too constrained. But it's fun because you can repeat that same pattern over and over again. So say you have like a shell or a heart or a leaf, something like that would be good. So what I ended up doing for this collage is that I had that sort of um bigger, bigger, bigger stencil pattern, and then I just used a smaller one to make these more pronounced shapes, and then I used the Sharpie to kind of go in and add the smaller marks on that paper. So that's one way of mark making. The other way is reveal cutting. And so reveal cutting is you are removing the top part of like the paper to reveal what's underneath. And a good way to show that, this one doesn't really show that as well or as strongly as this. I think this one. So this is a picture frame, by the way. This is like a literal picture frame. And what I did was on the back, there's a backing on the picture frame. So you can draw on that. And so what I did was I put the washi tape on the bottom, and then I put another piece of paper over it, like cardstock or something that's thin that you can use like a exacto knife or like a pair of scissors to use. Something that's thin enough that you can cut, because it can be kind of tricky if you're using like a really thick piece of paper, because then the frame, it'll be harder for the frame to come back on. So you want something thin. And I drew the illustration on top, and then I cut the paper out on top to reveal that pattern underneath. But that's just like one way of reveal cutting. You could cut the pieces of paper beforehand, and then kind of like you make like a sandwich, kind of sandwich them together, and then glue them onto your canvas panel. And then another way is just using like a stencil shapes. You know, like you have like what is it called? Like a die or like a stencil, the kind that you can punch up, the punchable kind, the kind I think like you have it like Dollar Trees or something. You can use something like that, build your shapes on top of each other, and then also paste them on top, or do the reveal cutting where you paste them on the bottom, and then have your thinner paper and you reveal it underneath. So you have a lot of different ways to play around with. And let me know if you have any questions as I'm going around just explaining the um, techniques. Happy to answer anything that you like. So pattern repetition uses repeating motifs, so stripes, dots, or florals to guide the eye. The two demo collages that I have here show that really well. One of the repeating techniques here, let me zoom out just a little bit. One of the repeating techniques that I have here are like waves, these sort of circular swooping patterns. Another type is like the round orbs, these sort of orb shapes. So that's another repeating pattern. What it does that I like with this sort of repeating patterns and the shapes is it moves your eye through the canvas. And so in week one, we learned about the rule of thirds, which is how you can use a composition technique to figure out how you want to move your viewer's eye through your collage. Sometimes you might not want to have any movement and you just want stuff to stay stuck in one place. Like you literally want your eye to stay stuck in one place. The fun thing, and I can circle back to that too. It's essentially how you place items on your collage to either move your eye through it or to have it stuck in one place so that all your attention is focused on one side. Maybe it's up here, or maybe it's down here. You just want somebody to focus on. Maybe you don't want all the attention up here. So it's just a fun way to use the collage panel or whatever kind of substrate or area that you want that collage to be on. It's just a fun way to think about composition. And that's just one of the many types of composition that exist, but I think it's the easiest one because that's the one that I tend to gravitate towards most. And that's what I see a lot of beginners are able to latch on to. It's just such a simple thing. And it makes sense in nature. If you were to go out and about and look at how things are structured, you can kind of break things down into those those rule thirds. So another motif that I've repeated here are the dots with the typography. A lot of these like silvery, I'll zoom in just a lot of these silvery dots, which I made with this sort of Sharpie. So these kind of dots are made with this sort of Sharpie, and it adds a little extra something to the collage without overpowering the typography. I liked the text, so I wanted to keep it that way. I just wanted to add a little something extra there. We also have a lot of lines going on here. Thin, short, broken lines. these wavy, thicker lines that are like branching out. Those are other types of repeating motifs that allow your eye to move through the collage. And in week one, we learned about contrast. We learned about contrast with colors and shapes and hierarchy and the typography. So there's all types of ways to even create movement with those sort of contrast. It's all very open to your interpretation, and a way to repeat patterns could be through, as we mentioned, typography, which is like all this text here, through the orbs, like I have here, all that repeating, and through the lines, like these skinny or thicker broker lines, and then I have these really big, chunky, grungy, thicker lines. There's lots of ways that you can do this. And then we have writing. You can use real language or a semic, which is like made up language. I think almost everyone has some kind of like made up way to write um, words that maybe are not English or not any other kind of foreign language that exists. That's another way that you can use writing in your collage to add texture and rhythm and repetition. And so one of the ways I did that, I used a lot of English here. So like I Matter, or from the magazine cutting, Grateful. And I think this one was like Giftable or something. Or no, Gifted and Grateful. So that's one way. I also wrote like in English, like I Matter. So that was another way. And then I added some funky, kind of influenced by Arabic, but not really because it's not actual characters. It's just like random little things. So that was like my kind of made up language. And then of course I have like actual, again, more English word. So that's and more of that kind of abstract, funky writing that doesn't mean anything, but it looks interesting. We also see a lot of what we discussed with mark making here, though this leans more towards what we learned in week one, which is more about composition and the idea of using different types of material to lead your eye through and to have a collage that feels really full and just looks beautiful with all these different textures that probably wouldn't look good together in on their own, but as we learn about composition, it all adds to the overall look of the work. And so with pattern repetition, we're utilizing pattern repetition to enhance the cohesiveness of your collage, establishing a rhythm that guides the viewer's eye and reinforces your chosen theme, which is movement. And then I have a couple of composition tips. I'll go over the rule of thirds since we already talked about it. The frame within a frame, I mentioned that briefly, but I'll explain that again. And then I mentioned 1 point perspective, which we don't really need to go into today, but it's not really that important. This is more competition. So do you have any questions, Wendy, so far? If you're still here with me, still thinking this is interesting. Oh, okay. So we're gonna go into the rule of thirds. And essentially with the rule of thirds, this is perfect. We're figuring out where exactly we want to focus our attention on the collage. If we look at this collage, you see that a lot of our focus is on this upper right side, whereas everything else that's here supports that. This collage also uses the rule of thirds, and all of our attention is focused all around because it feels very balanced and it feels very um, even and our eyes moving around. This also uses the rule of thirds, and it's similar to the last one in that everything is moving around. However, we've done something a little different where some of our attention maybe focus more a little bit down here because there's a brighter color. And this one is also similar to this one in that a lot of that focus is on this part here of the collage. And so the rule of thirds is a composition technique that is used in photography. And it's basically how the subject in your painting or your photo is framed. And if you look in nature, you can see how sometimes landscapes, there's like one big thing, maybe on the left side or on the right side, and everything else is used to draw attention to that. So when you make your collage, you can do something very similar, or you have a whole lot of elements that you want on one side. So maybe up here, or maybe you want elements down there, or maybe just elements up there, maybe elements up there, or maybe you want everything to feel balanced. So you try to put everything in the middle. That is the most basic way I can explain composition in collage terms. And so today we're learning about mark making. It's fun to kind of go in here and consider how the mark making can serve your composition. We'll zoom in and we'll see, like with this, we can start adding like swooping lines. Maybe this is a show. Maybe it's something bigger. I know when we started with movement as the theme, I began a collage that I'd like to continue on with. I tend to try to stick with the same collage, but depending on like demoing, I like to kind of add different components. And so let's get it in a little bit like this. Move this one out of the way, and let's continue on doing what we have. This is my like cut and create paper collage kits. These are kits that I sell through my shop and based in Oregon as well. So you can purchase these kind of kits online if that's of interest to you. They come with everything you would need for a collage class online, and they are seasonal as well. This one is more of like the standard kit. This was not the seasonal kit, but I do have seasonal kits that can be made, so it's customized to what you may want. If you want like a Christmas themed kit or a fall themed kit, you kind of just add colors based upon what it is that you're interested in and what we have in stock. So we didn't really go through much of the embellishments. We kind of just stuck with what we had materials wise. And I'm like, am I ready to commit to how I want this collage to look this early on? Or do I want to do something a little different? I'm thinking, and this is also an idea of reveal cutting that I mentioned earlier, where you've already cut that paper. You already have this, and you want to just layer it on top of each other like that. And of course, you can even go in here and just have the canvas panel on the bottom. There's so many ways to do it, so it's not like a stressful experience. It can just be fun and intuitive. Let me get them some scissors here. And I actually do want to reveal a little bit of that canvas. So I am going to mark mine up a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to mark making. And again, when it comes to this class, once I've started the demonstrating part and explain what like the lesson is, you're free to roll. You're free to just do whatever you want for the rest of the time in class, and we'll have that share time as well. So however you would like to start your collage, once I've explained the technique, you are free to just start whatever it is that you started last class and use the techniques that we just learned to add more to your collage. And again, just like I was explaining before, you have this idea of reveal cutting in this way. And then now I have this sort of embellishments here that I want to add on top. I like that a lot actually, so I am gonna paste this down where my glue is. I'm gonna grab some glue and I will be back over here. Mhm. I have had some students ask, okay, um, what kind of glue should I use? Like, there's tons of glues out there. I don't know what to use. Like, help me. So, today I'm using tacky glue. I believe I have some Elmer's here. I'll grab some Elmer's because I also use Elmer's. I like tacky glue because you can use it for fabric. But if you have some other type of glue and all you have is Elmer's or whatever, school glue, school paste, a stick glue, totally fine. Not a problem. You can use that. I'll grab some of that Elmer's. I did want to try it out for this collage. Okay. So what the kind of materials I can use for your collage, it can be very forgiving. So you don't have to always feel like you have to have what I have on hand, because that's not why I teach collage the way I do. I just teach it so you have access to whatever you got access to. And of course, as I mentioned, the kits are also great for you to use because it has everything that you would need for a class except glue. Because I've had students in the past that have latex allergies, and so I want to create a kit that is as accessible as possible. So usually with my kits, I don't provide glue. I don't provide scissors because some people have mobility issues, and I don't want people to be scared off by that and not want to take a class because you don't have um, hands that you feel are useful for cutting paper or tearing paper. So these kits come with everything you would need for a collage that I teach in Oregon. All the papers, all the felts, all of the embellishments, googly eyes, origami papers, washi tapes, acrylic markers, temper paint sticks, everything you would need to create a wonderful collage based on this series of class prompts. And so I'm using something called a brayer tool, and with this, it allows you to like smooth down the paper. And even 1 minute, I'm going to figure out how to remove these live captions. I don't think anyone requires them today, so I will remove them just because it does make it a little challenging to see what I'm doing. Um, I'm going to remove these live captions. I don't think it's very helpful. Okay, I got rid of it. Yeah, again, if anyone ever needs live captions or you feel like you need to know what I'm saying, I believe it can also transcribe it into your own language as well. I don't know exactly how that works, but I know in English it'll translate into or give you live captions in English. So I believe if there's another language that you needed, then that's an option as well. Okay, so you need a brayer tool that like how it can just make everything stick, stick, stick. And again, I cut that paper. So we have this ready for mark making underneath what we're gonna have underneath. And now that I'm looking at this, I would, in fact, like a little more mark making on the bottom part, on this exposed blue part. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start one of those techniques that we talked about. Let's see. One of the techniques we learned about was stencil making. So that'd be a perfect way to add a little extra something to this. And I mentioned, you can use a cardboard or cereal box, whatever you got. I have this cap for the glue, and that seems interesting to me. I like that texture. I like that shape. So I'm gonna make a little stencil. This cap. Ta-da! That's it. It's that simple. It really is. Ooh. Okay. Wait. Now I kind of want this little bigger. This cutout shape. I want a little a bit more exposed so you can like really appreciate that. Okay. I want a little more exposed. So that's the thing. But the way I teach collage, it's very like, okay, I don't like this. Okay, so fix it, change it. It's okay. It's not a problem. Or, oh, I like it this way, but I don't like it that way. That's fine. Keep it that way. It is very forgiving. I teach a method where I think most people can appreciate it because it's not like you have to do it this way. There's so many ways you can do collage. Oops. These captions are on again. I don't know why. Whoops. Okay. I guess we'll leave it on. If it helps, we'll leave it on. Those I would have liked to have it. I would have liked to not have them visible. That's okay. Alrighty. I'm gonna glue this now. We did a little bit of mark making on the bottom of this blue paper, but I want to do a little bit more because I think it would be interesting to have so much of this exposed to have a little bit more funkiness. And now I see I don't like this edge anymore because I think it looks weird. So again, have some paper tearing, which I will explain. Literally tearing paper. It's literally tearing paper. That's it. All we're gonna do is tear the paper. You know that funky edge. a little grungy, a little funky. I like it. And I think that looks way better now because it doesn't look so square. And you can use these scraps for something. I depends on what I want. You know, like maybe I do want some scrap, but I try not to collect too much because I feel like with collage, little scraps and little knickknacks and little things start to pile up, and then you have a whole bunch of stuff that you don't normally use in a bag or a file, in a shoebox, in a folder, somewhere in your house or your garage or your closet or under your bed, and it takes up all the space. So I try not to collect scraps, and I just say thank you, scraps. You served a purpose, and now you can go get recycled in the recycle. And again, I'm using a brayer tool. You don't have to use this. You can use whatever you have on hand. I just have it, so I'm going to use it. A brayer tool does not come in the cut and create paper collage kits. It's completely separate. This thing you can purchase at like a craft store, wherever you are. If you have a Michaels or if you have anything like that, you can purchase them there. You could also use, see how this is like smooth on the back. It is little, like this. Yeah. You can use your fingers, but it helps you so you don't get glue on your fingers. You use a tool like that. Now I'm seeing. I want that silver again. I guess the white would look good too. Somewhere here. Yeah, I kind of like that a little bit actually. I'll zoom in. You can check out what I'm doing. I think that looks cool. Y'all might disagree. I think it looks pretty cool. Now I'm thinking I want a little. I don't like that color. I see this warmer one and I like it. And at any point, if you want to share what you're doing, share your process as you do it, you can put your camera on and share. You can share yourself drawing, or if you have one of those cool cameras, phones that you can put it on like a tripod mount and share your process that way, or you can just hold it up, do the camera, and share. This is another type of mark making which I mentioned before, which is these like funky, chunky lines. I know we're going a little bit. We end at 2:40. However, I'm going to honor the late start time, and I'm going to go and we're going to go up till like 3. We're going to till 3 today. Generally, though, it's from 1 to 2:30. But today, we had a little bit of a late start, so we're going to just roll with it, and we'll go back to our scheduled programming next week. All right. The markers that I'm using have a fat side and then a skinny side. I think they look cool either way. Mark making for me is just fun. Like, it's why I introduced it as a technique. Because see how boring this paper was like 2 seconds ago? And look how pretty it is now. I think there's something to be said about that. I think there's something to be said about like how, you can make something that looks lame and basic pretty. And if you don't like I'm using a canvas panel that's white. So I might not want that white edge here, but I might want it somewhere else. So you can use mark making to cover up things that you don't want other people to see. or to draw attention to an area that you want people to pay attention to. It's a very like flexible, very flexible technique. I kind of zone out when I do this because it can just become so like meditative in a way. Very nice. I'm gonna go in with thinking silver, like a copper. What is the color? Doesn't even tell me what color it is. I'm thinking it's more of like a coppery silver gold thing happening here. And I like that. I think that looks great. I think it adds to the whole piece. And a lot of my artistic interpretation comes from my culture. So I'm South Asian and African American mix. And so a lot of these kind of motifs with the mark making come from like textiles and art and even in nature. So you might have, an experience with different types of culture or whatever you like your heritage, you might have motifs and textiles that feel comfortable to you or that you feel like are so that you want to incorporate into your collage. Do it. Do it. You can get some really cool stuff out of there and it adds that personal touch that only you can do. Thinking I want I'm thinking I'm gonna go in with this. I'm gonna go in with this. When you purchase a cut and create, when you purchase a cut and create paper collage kit, you get these. These are called temper paint sticks. They're solid temper paint sticks. And these are the kind of sticks that I use in the workshops because they're so fun. They're different. Not many people know what they are. And so I'll explain it. It is a stick of paint at like a lipstick. And so you untwist it like a lipstick. And then I'll share it this one that we're doing the competition. But you can do it like this. And it's so smooth, you guys. It's so buttery. It's so smooth. And what I love about this is say you have your, basic canvas panel or whatever you're using, you can layer. You can layer, it dries in 90 seconds. You can layer this with another temper paint stick or with your markers or your Sharpies, whatever. It's so forgiving. It's so beautiful. It's so smooth. And it's it's great. So for instance, if I want to go in here with this sort of marker, it dries in 2 minutes. Actually, it dries in less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes or less. You can go in here. And you know how when you have, I want to say like Crayola, Rose Art, the student children's type of art supplies, it starts to get funky. You get a lot of feeling and stuff starts to, it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick. It gets all funky. If you look at this, it's still a little wet, but nothing's moving, and this is like purely showing up. It's purely showing up right there. I pushed a little harder on the marker so you can see that it's like a little bit of it's coming up. But if you look at that, where I'm not pressing as hard and I'm just like skirting on the page, nothing moves. This is all professional grade materials that you get in your collage kit. I only give you guys the best. I only use what I use professionally. I don't give you cheap materials. So you get high quality professional artist grade materials. I'm a nationally award winning author. I'm a Dark Horse Comics author and artist. I design my own and create my own works on my YouTube channel. And I've been trained by Nickelodeon, Disney, and Netflix um, artists and animators. So I take a lot of pride in ensuring that beginners and experts and anyone in between alike has this sort of access to these really high quality materials. There. And then, like I mentioned, you can layer. So I'm going to add this really pretty pink one. So a nice clip. And then I'm going to go over it. And again, nothing's shifting, nothing's moving around, and it's layering. I have seen students use this kind of technique for like with waters, skies, all types of techniques. So you can do that and you can see how nothing shifted. It's just layering on top. And it dries. Even if I were to mark it up right now, it's still a little wet. Best to let it dry just a little bit, but you're a little impatient like me sometimes. You can start that process. This one's a little finicky, so we're going to try a different one. And again, I'm pushing hard so you can see the canvas, but generally, and that's another technique. Um, if you push really hard, you get that skirting, that streaking. But if you're light, and my markers that I use are used a lot, you guys. I do a lot of collage. The ones that you got in your kits are all fresh, they're new, never been used before, straight out of the box. So you don't have to deal with that like me. And it's still a little wet, but it goes on. So that's just a demonstration of mark making with this sort of material you get in your kit. I did some reveal cutting. I'm going to go back in. We're going to do a couple more things, and then we'll be done for today. Wherever you are in your collage, you're welcome to tag me online as well on social media so that I can see your beautiful collage and share it with all the other students. So, like, when I write, like, maybe I want to write in Arabic or something, but we're going to think about our English, our Urdu. We're going to focus on made up languages. So, I mean, it's kind of hard for me sometimes because it might actually be somewhat different there. Might actually be writing in a language. I think it's fun to do that though when you want to express it. Maybe there's a secret you want to share. Maybe there's a word that you can't say out loud or in your native language, so you want to write it in a made up language. You can do that. You can do that. I haven't done any mark making on this paper, and I want to try just a little bit. I'm really liking this kind of color. So what I would like to do is come in a little bit here that I feel best represent. you go. See, I just want to explain how simple that was. I did nothing, but look how pretty that looked. Look how much visual interest there is. Look at how your eye can go so many places. I did nothing. I just boop, little dots, little things, fun little dots, fun little stars, sprinkles, whatever they are to you. That's all I did. I didn't do anything. I just did a little, but it adds visual interest. Your eye moves around. And that is why the theme is movement, because you can move your eye in so many different ways. You never get bored with collage. The person will look at this collage and be like, oh wow, I wonder why that was made. Oh wow, I wonder how, it looks so complex. You can say, nope, it really wasn't. It was very simple. Okay. There's a little bit of made up writing, even though I'm pretty sure I wrote some Arabic in here, but hey. There's some pattern repetition. We did some pattern repetition with this chunky swooping line. So we did some of that. We did a bit of stencil making for the originally when we did this on the bottom here on the blue. We did a little bit of stencil making with this cap here. And then we also did a little bit of pattern repetition and we did some reveal cutting. So this is basically what everything that we did today. We were able to do that in the time that we had together today. So I'm really glad we were able to get this done. And I did share a little bit about the rule of thirds. And I'll go over again very quickly because I want to be mindful of time today and your time. Paper cutting and paper tearing. I'll use a piece of paper. This is just a normal piece of origami paper. You can get this in the kit if you order a paper collage kit, or you can grab origami paper like this from any kind of craft store. Whatever you have on hand is fine. Paper tearing is this. That's it. That's all it is. I'm just tearing paper. This is fun because it adds really funky edge. And I like these edges because what I like to do sometimes is come in. Maybe I don't like that white edge. I come with my marker and I just draw over that edge. Maybe I want something different. You know what I mean? Do you see how that just makes it so different? Look at that. It went from this boring white edge to this colorful edge in a few seconds. Beautiful. Paper cutting is exactly what it sounds like. Cutting the paper down, whether you have scissors like this, an X-Acto knife, whatever you have on hand, use it. Stencil, cutter, like a little stencil pop stencil thing, use that. Whatever you have to cut the paper that's not ripping it by hand. And so these are the kind of techniques that I've used when it comes to the collage, when it comes to paper cutting. This one in particular has a lot of paper cutting involved. It's all very straight, it's all very smooth, it's all very specific type of lines. That's what you can do with paper cutting. This one has a little bit of paper cutting and a little bit of paper tearing with this collage. And so that's another aspect you can use. And those grungy areas can be covered, with this was this sort of the temper paint stick I use for that. But any kind of material you have, paper cutting adds a lot of really beautiful edges. Paper tearing, has a lot of beautiful edges. This is cutting paper, so this scene feels a bit more constructed and a bit more specific. This one has a lot of paper tearing, and you probably can't really see because the way I layered it is so specific. However, zoom in here just a little bit. Paper tearing. I had no scissors. I used paper tearing. Just so you can really appreciate those edges. All these edges, tearing. All that is tearing. All that. And I could have gone in there and did what I did for this other edge for the paper that I showed you a moment ago, where I add that marker to cover up the edge. You can do that too. All that is paper tearing. Adds a funky edge and it looks really cool. So there's so many ways. So many ways. But that's all that we're doing today. Again, I wanted to share that if you are interested in a cut and create paper collage kit, you are welcome to order them. I will drop a link to that in the email. So, like when you get an email that tells you about the class recording, I'll send a link to that for like what comes inside of it, and maybe I can get that off there. But that's what the kind of stuff that comes inside of it: panels, clippings, photos, origamis, scrum. So these are all the types of things that can come inside of it. Sometimes, depending on what we have in stock, you might not have photos, for instance, but you'll probably have clippings, or maybe you won't have a lot of like scrappy papers, but you'll have more origami papers. It kind of just depends on what we have in stock and based on the theme and the season. So we try to get these seasonal. There's a new thing that we're going to be starting next year where we have seasonal kits. So they'll have an assortment of these types of items, and maybe you'll have like a winter photo or a snowman magazine clipping, something of that nature. Generally, though, you will have all of these things in there. It just depends on the amount of how many of these type of things, like magazine clippings, are stock for those. And as always, these are customizable to you. So if you have your own stuff that you want to add into the kit, you're welcome to use that in the classes. So before we head out, I want to transition a little bit. Give me one moment. I want to stop sharing. Okay. Let's give me a little funky error. Okay. Um, I apologize. I'm not quite sure why I can't see my little meeting controls. Give me one second. A little embarrassing. I apologize. Mm, and stop sharing this window. Okay, and I want to share more of this window, but it doesn't seem to want to let me. Okay, there we go. Great, fantastic. Okay, well, thanks so much for being here for week 2. We learned about mark making, and I shared a little bit of a recap for week 1, which was composition of rule of thirds, as well as paper cutting and paper tearing. And I also shared what we learned today, which was about mark making. So we learned about um, stencils and reveal cutting. We learned about pattern repetition. We learned about mark making like on the page and versus on the canvas versus layering reveal cutting when we put the paper on top of each other versus cutting it out on the bottom. Learned all these different things. Again, my name is Nadia Sheikh, and you can join me again next week where we learn about storytelling. The theme that we're still using is movement. And so you're welcome to continue on with the collage you made today. If you're just joining today's class, you can start on your collage today with what you've learned and join us for class 3, where we can continue on with that. Or if you want to create a new collage every class, that's totally fine as well. All right. Well, thanks so much. And this recording will be submitted uh, either by Monday, you'll receive it, or on the on Sunday evening. So either Sunday evening or Monday morning, you'll get this warning. All right. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next video.